In the opening scene, we see a group of gangsters tormenting a man who seems to have failed to complete an assigned task. The leader of the gang, who looks like a creature, threatens the man's life. Just then, another criminal named Walter Locke, also called Payback, arrives and confronts the gangsters with his dual pistols. However, one of the gang members is protected by a bulletproof jacket, rendering the guns useless. Payback then opts for hand-to-hand combat, utilizing his exceptional fighting skills to defeat the entire gang. He even beats up the captured man and ultimately kills him. You thought he was there to save him, didn't you? Shortly afterward, the police arrive at the scene and apprehend Payback. Next, the global news tells us about the devastated world, which has suffered greatly from wars involving harmful nuclear weapons. Millions of people have perished due to nuclear radiation syndrome. However, some have acquired superpowers. These superhumans have misused their powers, leading to riots and chaos in the entire nation. In response to this, the US government has established a high-secured super prison called Sandhib to incarcerate and manage superhumans. It is also revealed that Payback holds a personal grudge against superhumans because his daughter died at the hands of one of them. Over the past few years, he has been seeking revenge by hunting down superpowered people and has killed more than 40 of them to date. Despite being an ordinary person, he is no less than the superhumans. Currently, Payback is sent to Sandhib Super Prison, where he can eliminate more superhumans just as he desires. In the prison, he meets a guy named Diego Diaz, who possesses the ability to share emotions and feel the pain of others around him. Upon their arrival, a female officer named Morales briefly explains the prison's rules. The prisoners there are fitted with ankle cuffs that allow the officers to control their superpowers. What if their superpower is in their arms? Both Payback and Diego are subjected to these cuffs before being sent to their respective cells. The next day, Payback enters the prison ground, where he is approached by an inmate named Diamond Jim. It is revealed that Payback was responsible for the death of Jim's bro, who is also a superhuman. Seeking revenge, Jim challenges Payback to a fight, and the latter promptly accepts. The two then engage in a brutal fistfight, which appears to be evenly matched. Unfortunately, before one of them can gain the upper hand, some officers arrive at the scene and separate them. Both fighters are then taken to the infirmary in order to mend up their wounds. Meanwhile, Diego is approached by an inmate named Gordon Tweedy, who gives him a tour of the prison and explains some of the rules he must follow. Gordon advises him to mind his own business without interfering with anyone. As they wander around, Diego asks if the Lobe is also present in Sandhib. In response, Gordon warns him to lower his voice before saying yes. The Lobe is believed to be the most dangerous superhuman who possesses an ability to manipulate people's minds. As a result of this, he is held in a special cell with his face concealed by a mask and his hands restrained. Following this, we are introduced to the prison warden named Walton Devlin, who is notorious for using violence against the inmates, driven by greed for wealth. Walton aims to extract as much money as he can from his prisoners before his retirement. He chooses the Lobe for this task, knowing that the superhuman can use his mind-controlling abilities to get what Walton desires. Despite offering the Lobe special treatment in exchange for transferring the money, the Lobe refuses the deal, which infuriates the warden. Later on, the deputy warden becomes aware of Walton's intentions, so she expresses her concern about exploiting the prisoners for personal gain. However, Walton tells her to keep her mouth shut, or else he will not refer her name to the board, stopping her promotion. Despite her anger, she finds herself powerless against the warden's actions. The scene then cuts to the infirmary, where a doctor named Isabel Josephs is tending to the injured prisoners. Shortly after, Diego, who has been assigned with the cleaning duty, walks into the infirmary. There, he engages in a brief conversation with Dr. Isabel, who turns out to be a kind and generous person compared to the other prison officers. Later that day, Dr. Isabel is assigned to conduct a psychological session with the Lobe, but their meeting is abruptly interrupted when Payback breaks into the room with the intent to kill the Lobe. At first, Payback knocks Dr. Isabel unconscious and then proceeds towards the Lobe. Coincidentally, Diego happens to pass by at that very moment and notices the commotion. As a result, he takes down Payback with a dive and manages manages to hold him down until the prison officers arrive. Diego's action earns him the respect of the Lobe, who is considered the most influential figure within the prison, with all the inmates respecting him. As a show of gratitude for saving his life, the Lobe summons Diego outside his cell the next day. He also offers Diego the position of his assistant, acknowledging his courage. However, Diego requests some time to consider the offer. From that moment onwards, the Lobe's followers start treating Diego with good care and respect. Later, during lunch break, Diego shares a meal with a fellow inmate named Gordon. Through their conversation, it is revealed that Gordon was the very first prisoner in this super prison. For all these years, Gordon has been applying for parole, but it has been rejected each and every time. Despite this, he continues to hold on to hope, praying that his next application will be successful. Unfortunately, when the outcome remains unchanged and his parole is denied again, Gordon appears visibly disheartened. One day, during lunchtime, one of the Lobe's assistants gives Gordon a metal object, and the latter uses it to unlock his ankle cuffs. He then climbs on the table, rips off the wire, and recharges his body, revealing his superpower to control the electricity. Following this, he destroys the prison's electrical system and even kills one of the guards with his powers. This creates chaos within the entire prison, and all the superhumans start fighting against each other. But fortunately, before the situation worsens, the deputy warden activates the backup motor, successfully restoring the electrical system. After this, all the prisoners are subjected to electric shocks via their ankle cuffs before sending them back to their respective cells. Meanwhile, Gordon makes his way to the infirmary, where he gazes out a window at the outside free world. Just then, Officer Morales walks in the room and strikes him hard across the face. Upon taking him down, she reports the same to the prison warden, who unexpectedly orders her to kill him. Though initially reluctant, Morales complies with the order, delivering several powerful blows to Gordon, ultimately leading to his death. In the aftermath of these events, Walton suspects that the chaos may have been part of the Lobe's escape plan. Seeking answers, he approaches Diego, knowing that he has been in close association with the Lobe for the past few days. Walton takes Diego outside a torture room and threatens him, hoping to extract any secret plans between him and the Lobe. However, Diego genuinely has no knowledge of what is going on, or why the Lobe offered him the position of his assistant. He just found me sexy. Finding no useful information from Diego, Walton walks up to the Lobe's cell and warns him not to even think about escaping. He also points out that the best thing the Lobe can do is to work for him. This time, the Lobe changes his mind and agrees to cooperate, but he requests some time and a device with a Wi-Fi network to transfer money into his account. Afterwards, Diego, who is still upset about Gordon's death, confronts the Lobe and asks him about his plan and what he wants from him. In response, the Lobe cryptically tells him to wait until Friday, the day of the prison warden's retirement. On the other hand, the deputy warden, accompanied by 2 prison officers, heads down to the basement to check on the electrical damage caused by Gordon. Following this, they call in technicians to repair the damaged wires. The days pass by, and the super prison appears to have settled back into its routine, with only the Lobe continuing with his plans. He uses a tablet provided by the prison warden and secretly creates a virus for a jailbreak. Elsewhere, Payback tattoos a cross sign on his face. Oh, nice. And sets out to confront Jim. He picks up a fight with Jim, but for some unknown reason, the latter keeps ignoring him. Finally, the day of the warden's retirement arrives. Walton summons the deputy warden and Captain Jason into his office to decide who will take on the role. Unfortunately, after a useless speech, he selects Captain Jason. The deputy warden argues that she is the most qualified and has served the super prison for years, implying that she is the deserving one. However, Walton puts the blame on the board members, saying that it was not his decision. This leaves the deputy warden feeling devastated and hopeless. Afterward, Walton enters the Lobe's cell and hands him his tablet, instructing him to transfer the money into his account. Unbeknownst to Walton, the Lobe feigns to carry out the money transfer, but instead hacks into the prison's security system, disabling all the prisoners' ankle cuffs. This allows the superpowered prisoners to regain the ability to use their powers, and as a result, a large commotion begins. The prisoners use their telekinesis gas, instant recovery, teleportation, laser, intense sound wave, and various other abilities to fight each other and also the prison guards. Amidst the turmoil, Payback continues his revenge mission to execute the superhumans one by one. It's amazing that he doesn't get one-shotted immediately. A short while later, Walton is informed about the ongoing chaos and decides to go out to investigate. However, to his dismay, the cell door is locked. He quickly contacts one of his officers and instructs them to let him out. The prison officers, on the other hand, are struggling to control the situation, so they turn to the deputy warden for help. The deputy warden explains that the entire system runs on a generator, and restarting it will reactivate the ankle cuffs. After learning this, as if he wouldn't have been taught that already, Captain Jason hurries to the basement to restart the generator, but before he can do so, he is confronted by Jim, who is now transformed into a demon-like form. A fierce battle ensues between the two, and despite the captain's determination, Jim's superhuman strength proves dominant against him. But fortunately, Captain Jason uses his wits and breaks a large pipe, which releases hot air and ultimately scalds Jim to death. He then quickly rushes to the generator and restarts it. In the midst of all of this, Diego seeks refuge in the infirmary, but he is still able to hear the pain experienced by other prisoners outside, causing him great distress. Thankfully, Dr. Isabel remains by his side, doing her best to comfort him. In the Lobe's cell, Walton, who is still unaware of the Lobe's true role as the mastermind, sits calmly in front of him. The Lobe then reveals his deadliest secret power. He can possess the body of anyone he likes. Exploiting this ability, the Lobe takes the warden's body as the host and knocks the real Walton unconscious. As the system reactivates, the deputy warden unlocks the Lobe's cell door. The warden, who is now the Lobe, orders the prison officers to lock Walton, who is in the Lobe's body, in the torture room. He then places the last order to release Diego from the prison. With the newly acquired warden's body, the Lobe finally escapes the prison, venturing to start a new life ahead. And he will no longer be known as Lobe. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.